Hey, I'm National Master Alex King for Cool Math Games, and this is Chess Master Tips and Tricks. So as we know, chess is a game of combat, and in this video we're going to really get into the action. So I'm going to show you the 5 winning attacks. These are special moves, also known as tactics, that strong players use to capture their opponent's pieces or even to checkmate them. And once you learn these 5 tactics, you are going to be amazed at how often they start showing up in your own games and how easy it's going to be for you to beat people using them. So let's go to the board and get started. The first tactic is called a fork, or a double attack. It looks like this. White's knight is attacking black's king and black's rook at the same time. Now black can't move both of those in one move. Black has to choose which piece to move. In this case he's in check, so he needs to move his king, and then we get to capture the other piece for free, the rook. So here's another example of a fork. Black can make a move to fork white's bishop and knight, so attack them at the same time. The rook comes down, and it's attacking both. White can only move one of them, and then we get to capture the other one for free. So that's a fork. The next tactic is called a skewer. It involves 2 of your opponent's pieces which are on the same line. So here the queen and the king are on the same diagonal. And we can take advantage of that by moving our bishop to that diagonal. So we put black in check, and when his king moves out of the way, we get to capture the queen behind it. Here's another example of a skewer. So white's knight and pawn are on the same file or column, and we can use our queen to skewer that knight and that pawn. So we move our queen onto that file, we attack the knight, and when the knight moves, we capture the pawn behind it for free. So that's a skewer. The next tactic is called a pin, and it's kind of the opposite of a skewer. So black's king and knight are lined up on the same file, and so is our rook. So that means that black's knight can't move out of the way, because then black would be in check. Now we can take advantage of that by putting black in check with our other rook. So we're checking the king, and black would like to block that check with the knight, but he can't do that because then he would be in check with our other rook. So this knight is pinned in place, it can't move. And that means black is in checkmate here. He has no way to get out of check. Here's another example of a pin where we're not trying to checkmate black, we're just trying to win one of black's pieces. So black's queen and king are on the same file, and we can take advantage of that by moving our rook to that file. So we're attacking the queen. The queen would love to move out of the way, but the queen can't because then the rook would be checking the black king. So black's queen is kind of helpless. The best thing that the queen can do is just capture our rook, and then we capture the queen. So black gave up 9 points, and we only gave up 5 points. So now we're winning by 4 points. So that's a pin. There's one more tactic which involves 3 pieces on the same line, and that's called a discovery. So here our queen and our bishop are on the same file as black's queen. So that means our queen could capture black's queen as long as we just move this bishop out of the way. So we move it out of the way with check. So black's in check, and we're attacking black's queen at the same time. So when black has to get out of check, now we capture the queen for free. Now why can't the knight just capture our queen back? That's because the knight is pinned. So just like I told you, these tactics show up all the time. Black can't capture our queen because then black would be in check. So we've got a pin and a discovery going on here. Here's another example of a discovery. White would be in check if we just move our bishop out of the way. So what's the best thing we can do with our bishop to discover that check on white's king? Boom. We move our bishop here and attack white's knight, which is not defended. So the king is under attack and the knight is under attack. White has to get out of check, and then we capture the knight for free. That was a discovery. All right, the last tactic is called a decoy, which just means a distraction. Sometimes you've got one of your opponent's pieces which is protecting a very important square. and you just want to distract that piece so that it's not protecting that square anymore. So you do a decoy. So we put black in check with our rook, and black has to capture our rook. And now the queen is not protecting the square anymore. So we sacrificed our rook on purpose in order to be able to move our queen to this square. And black is actually in checkmate here because we've got our rook protecting our queen. So black can't capture our queen. Here's another example of doing a sacrifice to distract one of your opponent's pieces. So we would love to move our queen down here and capture this pawn, but white's queen is looking at that square too. So let's just find a way to decoy white's queen away from protecting that. We can use our knight. Boom. Now white's in check. So the only way for white to get out of check is to capture our knight. Now the queen has been distracted, and we move our queen down and checkmate white. Once again, our rook is protecting our queen. So white can't do anything to get out of check, like capture our queen. So that was a decoy. So those are the 5 winning attacks: fork, skewer, pin, discovery, and decoy. These are great ways to capture your opponent's pieces or force a checkmate. And sometimes you can even sacrifice one of your own pieces to set up one of these winning attacks. So practice them and look for them in your own games. I promise you'll start seeing them everywhere. All right, thanks for watching, everyone. I'm National Master Alex King for Cool Math Games, and I'll see you next time.